The Law Society was founded in 1933. For 88 years, the main aim of the Society is to provide its members with opportunities to socialise, to engage in new phenomena, and engage in new discourse. The Praeses Elit Award is an integral part of that endeavour. It is awarded to those who have made an indelible impact on their chosen fields and who have contributed to discourse and societal thought in that process. Rarely bestowed, previous recipients of the award include Sir Bob Geldof, Samantha Power and Gina Miller, to name but a few. This year, the Law Society in particular wants to empower its members. It is for that reason that Mr Patrick Dempsey has been nominated for the award. Once described as a modern iteration of a polymath, Mr Patrick Dempsey is an activist, an actor, a race car driver, and above all, a philanthropist. Mr Patrick Dempsey is an inspiration to young people all around the globe. He is a role model for those who dare to have more than one passion and for those who dare to excel in them all. And it is for this reason that I am delighted to announce that Mr Patrick Dempsey has been awarded the Praeses Elit Award. Thank you very much. So, Mr Dempsey, you're very welcome to Trinity College Dublin. I just want to say it's an absolute honour having you here today as both guest and recipient of the Praeses Elit Award. So first question is, how are you?
I'm great, and thank you very much at Trinity College and the Law Society. I want to thank you very much for this honour. And it's great to be here. We just had a moment where we could look at where all the exams take place, and you feel the sense of tradition and the architecture and all of that's really exciting to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And unfortunately, I must apologise, we don't have the physical award to give you today, but we'll post it out.
That's
after.
okay.
But my colleague Ruth has a token that we'll give to you after. So I think the first question first is, what's brought you here today?
Well, this award or honour,
yes,
which is nice, and I think ironically, two productions here across the way, which is really quite funny. So I'm in Ireland on a film, and it's a great opportunity to explore the country and to see the history and everything.
Yeah, no, when I told my family that I was interviewing you today, I think their first question was, can we come?
Yeah.
The second question was, they sent me an article and it was entitled The Top 10 Stunning Places That Patrick Dempsey Has Visited.
Oh, funny.
And I was looking through the article and I saw a photo of, it was a selfie of you and a donkey, I think in Derry.
Yeah, so I had 2 weeks where I had to quarantine in the north.
Oh, very good.
And I was up there and I could get out and walk around.
Okay.
And I befriended this donkey, which was quite fun. Really friendly, really outgoing.
Yeah.
And I think the owners of the farm were really quite surprised that he came up to me because he's really standoffish.
Yeah, no.
Clearly he likes Instagram.
Yeah, clearly. So have there been any particular highlights of your trip? I know you've been working, but...
I think the opportunity to explore the country,
Absolutely.
And to understand the history. Certainly being in the north, getting a better understanding of the dynamic that's happening up there. The conflicts through history. Understanding a little bit more with the 2 weeks up there, just the history of Ireland and certainly the Great Hunger, getting a better perspective of that. Getting a sense of the people and feeling something here and interacting with people, I think has been extraordinary.
No, of course, and no better place to go than Derry, with all the murals. I don't know if you saw them, but no, definitely.
Yeah, the land is breathtaking, and then you start to see the movements through time and the big manor homes that are fallen on hard times, and in the progression, you look at where we are today in the world, and everything is moving, everything is constantly changing. And it keeps everything in perspective. So it's been great to do the sightseeing.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
To learn. Being the tours and to learn, exactly. So now, Mr. Dempsey, you've been described, I've read, as a modern iteration of a polymath. You have many talents. I think it was a podcast I listened to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, On the Edge.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what the interview described. I thought it was very apt considering.
Oh, there's who tagged Hoyer most likely.
Yes, exactly. Because, you've so many...
I've never heard it, so that's
have you not?
Yeah.
I thought it was a very good line when I came across it. But you've so many interests and talents and pursuits. So
I think the best place to start is perhaps what, you know, we all know you best for here is your role as, you know, Dr. McDreamy in Grey's Anatomy. But before we go down that avenue, how did you come into the career of acting? What led you down that route?
Well, I really wasn't a good student, you know, I was dyslexic, so I was always put in, you know, different classrooms away from normal people. So I had to learn how to survive that and find a sense of identity. So I started performing and acting out and getting in more and more trouble. So that's sort of how it started to get that attention. And then through ski racing, oddly enough, I wanted to improve my balance, and I picked up the unicycle because of Inmar Stenmark.
Oh, wow.
And I was riding the unicycle around, you know, on the campus at school, and the shop teacher, Paul McKinney, was in a vaudeville troupe with these new vaudevillians. And we need someone like you to kind of do some stuff on stage with us. Would you come and do that? And that's how I started performing.
Okay.
You know, so it's all kind of, that's how it all started.
Okay, very good.
And now here I am in
Trinity
College getting an award, which makes no sense, at a university. So I think because of that, you know, I left school early. And I think I've always wanted to continue to learn. And I think that's the important thing. Even though you have traditional education, the education never really stops. You have to kind of keep seeking and trying to refine yourself, which is why we're here, to be better people and to learn as much as possible.
Absolutely. So, you know, from your role in Grey's Anatomy, I think you were there for 10 seasons. You know, that's such a significant amount of time.
It's still going.
It's still, yeah.
I really want to thank Shonda Rhimes and certainly the cast, the ensemble, and the subject matter has really changed my life profoundly. And it gives me an opportunity to travel, to work, and to be able to do things and to give back. So I'm very grateful for that experience. And it was an incredibly profound time.
Absolutely. So you'd say it had a huge impact on your life then, even since you've left the show?
Oh, absolutely, and it continues to. And I returned last year just for a little bit, even in the afterlife, you know, to really get people aware of, you know, wear a mask and you know, trust the science and things like that. So it gives you a great platform.
Absolutely.
You know, and reach, no matter where you go in the world, the power of television. And then to play a character like McDreamy, it forces you to hold a certain energy for people and a certain projection. And then that's another thing that constantly forces you to improve and to evolve as a person, because you want to live up to that expectation and that projection and honor it for them or for whoever you come in contact with, because that character means so much to so many people.
Absolutely. You know, you speak there of how you have this, you know, raised platform from doing a show like Grey's Anatomy and gaining such notoriety. And I've seen, you know, you've done so many philanthropic endeavours, such as your work for the Dempsey Centre and the Dempsey Challenge. So do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes, so the Dempsey Centre is a place where we support cancer patients. We don't treat the disease, we treat the person. We treat the caregivers, the whole family, in a holistic way. And this was really inspired by my mother's cancer journey in battle. She had over 12 reoccurrences and eventually had to surrender to that in 2014.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
And we all have been impacted by cancer in some way, and I thank you for that. But I just felt really, what can I do to help? And through working with Amgen Oncology, the Tour de California, which was a cycling event, had a component to it called Break Away from Cancer, which was 4 different groups in supporting cancer. And one of it was integrative medicine. And to me, that was something I was like, we didn't have in the community I grew up in Maine, Lewiston, Auburn, which is a small little mill town. And a lot of the jobs have gone away, so there's not a lot of support there. And I called my sister and I asked her to reach out to the doctors and the local community, medical community. Is there a space for something like this to happen? And that's how it started. And then having the ability and the visibility to generate people's support, that's how it started. And I think with fame, this is probably the most important thing that you can do with it, is something positive. Not for yourself, but for other people. It's the most fulfilling.
Absolutely. And I see, you know, the Dempsey Challenge hasn't stopped with COVID. You know, you do virtual runs and...
Yeah, we did a virtual last year, which was really quite successful, which is an online training group out of England. And that gave us a worldwide platform to sort of talk about what it is that we're doing. There are other like-minded centers here, I believe it's the Purple House, that is very similar in what we do is what they're doing. And it gets people active. I just didn't want to do a banquet and have that as the fundraising activity. You know, you want to be helping. One of our components is really preventative medicine, and you need to stay healthy, you need to be physical, you need to be active psychologically and physically. And the cycling event is one way to do that, and it helps us raise a lot of money to make it possible so that all of our services are free. So we do a run and a walk and a ride, and it's going to happen this year, September 25th and 26th. So you can participate here in Ireland.
From Ireland?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great news.
Or come on over to Maine, you can do it there as well.
You better get training, so.
Yeah.
So now when we were researching, you know, the Dempsey Challenge and the Dempsey Centre, I came across an interview where you talked a lot about meditation and mindfulness, something we spoke about earlier. So can you just tell me basically what's the importance of mental health to you and how you incorporate it in your life?
Well, I think we all struggle with something, you know, emotionally at some point or another, insecurity. And I think we're doing this interview and the Olympics are taking place. So a lot of this is coming up with the athletes, and certainly with COVID, the isolation, you have a lot of time with your thoughts. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. And I think meditation or any kind of approach in that way really helps you center yourself. And of course, you want to have professional help as well if you have severe voices in your head. But I've always found very early on that through competing, through ski racing, we always would visualize the course. And sometimes you'll see people in the World Cup and they're visualizing the gates. And I think that's very important in life. And that's where it started for me. And then I went to India and studied there. And you know, now, you know, I'm constantly seeking to try to find tools that help me stay calm and centered and positive, you know, because then that energy is put out into the world. You know, it's like throwing a rock into a pond. That ripple is a positive ripple, not a negative one. And sometimes you come in contact with people and you can feel that. And that's when it's important to be centered and to protect yourself. It's hard because you need to continue the practice. It's like going to a gym. And there are great apps. I mean, the Calm app I think is fantastic that people can use. And you know, you can set your own program. Like if you're studying or you're doing something for a test, you know, take the moment and just concentrate on your breathing, which is really meditation. It's just really focusing on something. And if you just remember to breathe, it helps you center. And those are the principles.
So yes. Would you say that, you know, meditation and mindfulness, they're, you know, really essential for you to living such a successful, busy life?
I think it's a tool that helps, yes, navigate. I mean, you still have to, you know, battle all of the demons in your head and the emotions that come up and the fear and the anxieties and pressures and things like that. What we don't teach in school, unfortunately, are those practices. You know, I think there's some great stuff from Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism is sometimes misinterpreted. And there's a young man, Ryan Holiday, who has a few great books out right now that are, I find, really helpful and great tools for people. So I highly recommend that. So just keep seeking and trying to evolve and to, you know, learn new techniques to be a better person. And I think that's why we're here, right? Is to refine into, and education is an extension of that. So it's one component I think that we need to really work on in our society.
Absolutely. So, you know, you speak lots about, you know, staying positive. And in your own life, you've turned situations, negative perhaps situations, to positive. For example, you've spoken openly about your struggles with dyslexia and how you overcame that and put that into perspective just to keep working. So my question is, how would you say that, you know, how do you turn negatives into positives in everyday life?
Well, I think all the things that we just talked about too, I think it helps if you center. And then, you know, to remember that, you know, what is in the way is the way. You know, so that all the obstacles that come up in front of you are really great lessons for you. And if you meet that challenge, you'll get through it. And it's challenging. It's very hard because you have to really look at yourself honestly. For me, the dyslexia was really challenging because it was just so hard to look at something on a piece of paper and be able to read it and comprehend it. I could watch it, I could hear it, and I could then process it. And everybody learns differently. And for a long time, I just didn't fit into a typical program that is set up in America, the educational process. And this is long before people were breaking it down and understanding it and analyzing it and giving you the tools to overcome it. So that was very hard for me. I think there were a lot of self-esteem issues because of it that I've had to work through. And then I think having success in life in other things like ski racing or sports where I could find the gold in myself, that gave me confidence to speak up and say, hey, I need to work on this. This is hard for me. And motivates you, keeps you hungry, and I think to this day it forces me to, and I have a desire to learn more because I've never felt like I've had a proper education. I have wisdom, but not traditional education. But that's just life experience.
Yeah. Well, you certainly have lots of life experience, and you're clearly not someone who puts themselves into just one type of box.
I get bored really quickly.
Yeah.
I process things very fast, and I think that's why the car racing and the skiing is so exciting, because things are coming at you very quickly, and the ability to process things in a split second is really fun. When things slow down, like when we're doing a movie or something, you're waiting, and it's grueling. It's very hard. Because then you start to really spin, and that's when the meditation comes in to reset and not let your emotions take over, not let your temper get out of control.
So it's funny, when life actually slows down, the meditation is more important than...
Yeah, it forces me, once again, it's in the way, right? So what's in the way is the way. So I try to practice what I preach, and sometimes I fall on my face, and I'm like, I need to remember that.
But I think, Mr. Dempsey, one of the reasons, why we felt you were so great for the Praeses Elit award is because you're a man of such many talents, an activist, a racing car driver, an actor, philanthropist. So what I'd like to ask you is, have you any advice for students who feel that, they have been put into one box or pressured to just have one interest?
Yeah, I think it depends on what field you're going into, right? You're very fortunate to have arrived here at this incredible university with all of its traditions. A lot of people have overcome so many things to get here already. Some people, it's been an easy path to get here, and but with that, I think comes great humility. Going out into the world with much is given, much is expected to give back. To maintain a sense of humility. Always remember that you're a beginner. And then, expand your horizons, challenge yourself, make yourself learn how to be comfortable in very uncomfortable situations, because that's when the most growth occurs. And set goals for yourself. And when you attain them, take a moment and sit back and go, what can I do next? So even when you graduate from this university, or you don't, your learning never stops. And then with success, always go back to the person who is the most insecure in yourself, that person, and remember that when you come in contact with other people and meet them there. Meet them with humility and openness and kindness.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's
because sometimes education can, or just success can make you feel superior, and that's not really true, and that will take you down a very bad path eventually.
Well, Mr. Dempsey, someone who's attained, huge, phenomenal success, how do you manage your success?
It's work, I think with the skills, working out, I have a family that's constantly challenging me. I have 3 kids, so I don't know much around them. At this point, they're teenagers, and a daughter who's in university now, so they're constantly challenging me and questioning me and forcing me to improve. And, it's like anything. There's a pendulum swing, and you try to stay centered and not let your ego get out of control, or your temper, or your insecurities, and just trying to find balance and trying that. So it's a daily journey to do that and to improve.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dempsey. I think you're certainly someone who inspires everyone, young people around the world, especially people who have more than one passion and who dare to excel in more than one interest. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the time today.
No, absolutely.
This honor, and I hope to come back in many years' time and see how we all do. But I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.